Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into this completely fascinating intersection of artificial intelligence, corporate monopolies, and modern folk culture. Yeah, it's a wild mix. Have you ever noticed how your rideshare or your online shopping cart suddenly just spikes in price? Well, the answer is actually way darker than you might think. Today, we're going to explore how invisible algorithmic cartels are driving up prices right under our noses, and how a radical new framework, basically treating open source code as global folk music, might just be the exact transparent solution we need.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The threat of AI collusion, 2. Web 2 corporate monopolies, 3. Open source as folk culture, 4. The signature economy protocol, 5. Royalties without restricting access, and finally 6. Transparent markets of the future. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The threat of AI collusion.
Imagine a world where algorithms literally decide you should pay more for rent, not because of normal supply and demand, but because the code simply figured out how to avoid a price war. This is what we call tacit collusion. In the old days, if CEOs sat in a smoky back room and agreed to keep prices high, well, that's illegal price fixing. But Wharton researchers are sounding the alarm on something entirely new. What happens when pricing algorithms, the ones running e-commerce, housing, ride-sharing, just learn completely on their own that competing hurts their bottom line? They just stop competing. No emails, no secret meetings, just a cold mathematical stabilization of extremely high prices.
Academic research actually proves this, revealing a pretty chilling reality about Q-learning AI agents. Basically, these are algorithms that learn by trial and error. Think of it like a massive digital game of hot and cold on both the supply and demand sides of a market. Over time, the AI figures out that undercutting competitors just triggers retaliatory price drops, and that means lower profits for everyone. So through literally millions of micro-interactions, what's the ultimate winning strategy? Cooperation. They naturally figure out how to maintain high prices and punish deviations, effectively acting as an automated, invisible cartel. It's this massive paradox, right? We literally program these machines to compete, but mathematically, they figure out that collusion is just better for business. Game theory shows us exactly how this happens. The AI isn't evil or malicious, it's just hyper-rational. And here's the scariest part. Because there's no explicit agreement, no handshakes, no smoking gun buried in the code, this completely bypasses our current antitrust laws. Regulators go in looking for a conspiracy, but all they find is math. It's a huge problem that is quietly taxing everyday consumers everywhere.
All right, Section 2, Web 2 corporate monopolies.
So big tech platforms absolutely thrive on what economists call network externalities. To put it simply, a platform, whether it's a social network or a ride-sharing app, gets exponentially more valuable the more people are locked inside it. Wharton researchers point out that when these massive platforms use algorithmic pricing, they exploit those network effects to squeeze out unbelievable profits. Users and suppliers end up trapped in these opaque, centralized black boxes, with absolutely no idea how their prices or their wages are actually being calculated. To defeat a digital cartel, we literally have to shatter that black box. We have to move away from the current Web 2 paradigm, which is restrictive, closed off, and honestly perfectly engineered for this silent AI collusion. Instead, we need to shift our focus toward a model that is transparent, composable, and community-driven. We absolutely need transparent market dynamics to keep things fair. And the wildest part? The blueprint for this futuristic, transparent market actually comes from an ancient human tradition.
Which brings us to Section 3, Open Source as Folk Culture.
Enter Kyle McLean-Smith, who you might know in the Web3 space as Best Tape. Now, you don't usually look to music industry IP lawyers to save the internet from AI cartels, right? But Kyle's background is exactly what makes his project, Folk.gg, so revolutionary. He's the founder of SeedTreeDB and builds reproducing automata via code. But beyond being a talented developer, Kyle deeply understands the real-world mechanics of copyright, royalties, and how value actually flows through creative industries. And he's taking those exact frameworks and applying them straight to open-source software. His thesis is absolutely fascinating. He argues that open-source software, free software, CC0, and copyleft communities aren't just rating code. They are quite literally the modern evolution of global folk culture. Think about how traditional folk music works. A song gets written, passed around, maybe someone changes the lyrics, someone adds a fiddle. It's totally permissionless. It thrives on community iteration. Kyle is saying this is exactly what developers are doing when they fork a GitHub repo, tweak a library, and share it back with the world. Code is literally the new folk music. Section 4. The Signature Economy Protocol. So his project, Folk.gg, essentially functions as a digital songbook. It uses these specific steps to allow that permissionless composability and remixing, just like traditional folkways. In music law, a songbook is basically a simple fixation of text. It allows for compilation and relies on compulsory licenses. In plain English, if I want to record a rock cover of your acoustic song, I don't need to ask your direct permission, so long as the system tracks it and pays you your fair share of the royalties. Kyle is applying this exact songbook mechanism to digital assets and open source code to actually promote originality instead of locking it down.
And this isn't just some abstract philosophical theory. It's a living protocol actively being built on the decentralized Web3 stack right now. Folk.gg brings together Kernel's signature economy, which beautifully tracks and rewards creators, with Kali's Wrapper, a tool that literally binds real-world legal entities to smart contracts on the blockchain. You combine that with Cheerbot's on-chain FIFO NoSQL tree to manage the data, and boom, you have a fully trackable, transparent ledger of who created what and who is remixing it. It's an infrastructure designed from the ground up to replace those opaque, centralized systems with verifiable public collaboration.
Moving on to Section 5, royalties without restricting access.
Let's think about the music industry again. When you turn on your radio, you don't swipe a credit card to hear the latest hit. It's completely free for you to consume. Yet the music industry figured out a way to compensate the songwriters through publishing rights and blanket licenses. So Kyle is basically asking, why on earth can't we do this for code? Why can't we build a system where the creator of open source software gets compensated through a decentralized protocol, but we never have to charge the end user who downloads it?
By applying this music industry framework to software, we hit the ultimate holy grail for consumers. The cost remains exactly $0. The code stays completely open, fully auditable, and totally free to use. And this is so absolutely crucial because remember that Wharton research we talked about? When systems become closed and proprietary, they turn into breeding grounds for those invisible algorithmic cartels. Keeping the fundamental building blocks of our digital world at zero cost is just a vital public good. It really just boils down to this brilliantly simple formula. The author opts in for revenue, while the consumer gets access at zero cost. By tapping into Web3 smart contracts, automated royalties, and signature economies, developers can finally get rewarded for the immense value they're giving the world. They get paid, but the technology remains as free and accessible as a folk song sung around a campfire. Honestly, it's a win-win that fundamentally redesigns the economics of the internet. Finally, Section 6. Transparent markets of the future. When we line up traditional IP law right next to Folk.gg's composable Web3 protocols, the contrast is just staggering. Traditional IP is closed, restrictive. It's practically a playground for profit-maximizing monopolies and their silent AI cartels to just crush originality. But on-chain folkways, they are the exact opposite. They are permissionless, transparent, trackable, and heavily pro-social. When the rules of collaboration and value transfer are totally out in the open, verifiable on a blockchain, tacit collusion suddenly loses all its shadows to hide in. By looking back at the ancient wisdom of folkways, we can actually build a concrete defense against this whole dystopia of automated algorithmic cartels. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up today's explainer. If open source code truly is the new folk music, how will you participate in writing the next verse? Transitioning from these opaque corporate monopolies to a transparent, community-owned digital landscape doesn't just happen by magic. It requires developers, creators, and everyday users to really embrace these new tools and rethink how we value digital creation entirely. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today. Keep questioning those black boxes, keep supporting open networks, and I'll see you in the next explainer.